the second greatest thing that Jesus did in his ministry, first being his death and resurrection, which saves us, is to get abandoned followers who would then be his mission, who would then continue his mission, leading us up to this very day. And that's called disciples. That they were his disciples, they were his followers. And so it's no surprise in the beginning of Matthew, the beginning of his formal ministry in Matthew 4:18, that we see him calling his first disciples. We see that him, and he calls them this way. He says, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And so what does that look like? I think Jesus dives into this and gives us some great insight into this idea of discipleship in these next in this next little bit, as he begins what we call the Sermon on the Mount. We see that he's calling normal people, just everyday people. There's every reason, every walk of life. He is calling all people to be disciples, to follow him. And our job is to do that, exactly, follow. So I know for me, a lot of times I want to make myself something. I'm like, God, this is what you want me to be, so I need to make myself that. But that's not how Jesus called us. He said, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. I will make you what you need to be. You need to follow me. And in that, what he does is, as we let him, and so this letting him means submitting to him, means letting him work, letting him do his stuff inside of us, submitting to him, coming to him. And in that, we see this character come out of our lives, this person that Jesus is creating us to be, who is, and we see this in the Beatitudes, where we're not competing anymore with God for the throne, to direct our lives. We're saddened by sin and suffering in the world. And yet we're content with our own life and have no need to fight or make a stink about things. We're gentle and humble. We long for things to be made right. We aren't punishing or condemning, but rather merciful and graceful. We are honest and pure, able to confess freely, able to let our junk be known because Jesus has already paid for it, and able to give God the glory in our strengths because he's the one that gave it to us. And so we're in that we end up being reconcilers of relationships, reconcilers of situation, bringing shalom, peace to it. And because of that, we're looked down on. We rub people the wrong way, and we're persecuted because of it. And then Jesus moves into the purpose of disciples. What the purpose is to be. The purpose is to be salt and light. And so salt gives flavor and prevents corruption, and light opens the eyes and reveals truth, brings warmth and perspective. And yet in that, Jesus says there's a choice there that we can make. We can choose and follow this in this call. We can choose to resist. We can choose to hide our light. We can choose to not be salty, or we can choose to be. We can let God. We can follow him. We can let God work. And that ends the plea. That ends that passage there. Where he says, "Let your light shine before men, so that they may see your good works and praise your Father and glorify your Father in his heaven." Well, that word shine means to radiate brilliantly. It's only used a handful of times in the New Testament. And it's used, and it's really cool how it's used. It's used to describe God saying, "Let there be light" in the beginning of creation. And the idea that light is the same light that God is shining in our hearts when we come to faith. It's used to describe Jesus as he's transfigured on the mountain in all his glory. It's used to describe the angel in Peter's cell who releases him. It is used to describe the lightning and the coming of Jesus that is seen in the east and the west, so that you cannot not see it. And so in that, he's saying, "Let your light shine." And so today, I would just want to encourage you to let your light shine, to follow Jesus, to let him, to submit to him, to let him be what he needs to be in your life, do what he needs to do in your life, and let your light shine.